Okay, please ignore how I'm looking because it's been raining, thundering, lightning all day. So I've just been looking a mess in the house, and I figure I would make a little video just yapping. And I decided on the title of what I wanted to talk about, which is why I think long distance relationships are actually low key better. So, just a little background. I was in a long distance relationship for like 3 years, and in my life, I've only had two interactions with men that I would even classify as relationships, but both were complicated. But the first one, like I said, was 3 years long distance, and the second one was started out in person for like a year and a half, and then turned to long distance for maybe another year or so. And I remember, even now, still to this day, I find myself kind of like mentally invalidating my long distance relationship because it was long distance, and because I know that other people are almost like doing that in their head. Not always, but of course, sometimes, people are thinking how they're thinking, which makes sense because it's kind of like when you see the 90 Day Fiance couples and you're thinking, like, how much of a connection could you have without ever meeting and blah, blah, blah. And it's funny because my first ex is basically a 90 Day Fiance vibe. Like, it's exactly a 90 Day Fiance story, but just better and not as a mess. And we actually liked each other around the same age. And yeah, nobody was like in it for a visa. But the reason why I feel like one thing that I really noticed after my last in person relationship, because I also thought that, okay, once I get into another relationship that's in person, maybe I will feel differently about the long distance relationship. Like maybe I'll also feel like it wasn't that real of a relationship or not as intense as in person. But once I got into an in person relationship, it kind of did the opposite. It made me even feel more validated in my long distance relationship. And I know some people talk about this, but it really is a thing that when you're long distance, obviously, because you don't have the physical distraction, and it depends on you just talking to the person all the time. And you typically, well, not typically, but I would say in my case, like, we talked all day, all night. And it's funny too because me and the long distance ex had a language barrier. I told you, 90 Day Fiance. But we met on a language learning app. But, anyways, if you guys want that story time, comment below and I will make it. But it's like, even though we had that language barrier, we were long distance, I still feel like after this last in person relationship, which was also really nice, and I really liked who I was with. So it wasn't a matter of like liking one more or the other, but I just felt like my long distance ex knew me more. Like he actually knew me on a deeper level than even this in person ex. And I remember thinking that when my last relationship had ended, the in person one, and feeling like so almost misunderstood and so much like, wow, I don't think this person really knows who I am. And I kind of felt the same towards him too. I'm like, do I really actually know him? Because I feel like in person you get so distracted with the fun of things, the activities, and obviously the physical connection that it's very easy to miss on these subtle cues about the person and their emotional setup. You somehow really get a clear look at when you're long distance and talking to someone all the time. And it sounds like, even thinking about it, it sounds crazy, but it really is like that. So I feel like the first thing is definitely that you, I just feel like you get to know the person better and on a deeper level because you are forced to communicate and know about their past, know about their, just all that stuff. Obviously, there are a lot of downsides as well to long distance, so I wouldn't say that I prefer it per se, but I definitely would not invalidate it, or I wouldn't think of it as like not a real relationship or anything like that. I guess later I'll talk about the obvious downsides or the things that I really struggled with, because even when my in-person relationship switched to long distance, I kind of was okay with that dynamic because you're able to have your own routine and life, and but you feel that security and love of like knowing the person's there and getting to talk to them, and you're so excited when you see them. And it kind of it creates definitely this healthy dynamic of just like getting to miss them and also not being codependent. So that was also cool. Obviously, my first long distance relationship was like almost 100% long distance, so there wasn't that balance. Um, so that sucked because most of the time we're just wishing to be able to be in person. So the other thing is that the hard part about long distance, though, is that you are able to really build up this future in your head. It's not even like build them up. I feel like it's more about the future because you're constantly thinking ahead. When am I going to see them? When are we going to get to live together? So you spend a lot of time really in this fantasy of what things will be. So then when you separate, if you do, I feel like it's so much more heartbreaking because you become so fixated on this possibility. Whereas, like, when you're going through something with someone together in day to day real life, you get to really see how things are working or not working. Obviously, breakups are always going to hurt, but you can kind of have a better, clear understanding of how things might work or might not work. So, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. And a big, like, downside long distance is you don't get to interact with the person's family and friends. And that was like a really cool thing to experience after being long distance, to be like, oh wow, like I know this person's friends and they know my friends. And even my long distance ex, like of course sometimes he would talk to my friends on the phone or whatever, but it felt like a secret relationship, you know, it's like a relationship only in your head. So being able to have that connection with, you know, the person that you're with, their family and friends, and in their day-to-day activities, of course, is super fun. So, yeah. But anyways, I think long distance can actually be, especially like, obviously not forever, but if you can start long distance, I actually think it's so beautiful because you're building a connection on pure kind of compatibility of personality, like how much you just like talking to that person, doing nothing with that person. You're making an effort to prioritize them, even when you literally have, you know, the real world around you. And yeah, I think that's so beautiful. And I know too, physical intimacy will totally mess up your judgment. Like you will think that you really like someone, you really want to be with someone, when really it's just the physical intimacy kind of clouding you, attaching you to a person. So I really think also being able to kind of hold out and like that really helps in building a real relationship with someone. So yeah. But anyways, my battery is about to die, so I'm just gonna end this here, this rant. Comment below if you've ever been in a long distance relationship and what you think. And also comment below if you are a late bloomer, chronically single, always attracting long distance relationships like myself.